Have you ever met someone and felt an instant click? That strange feeling of being on the same wavelength, as if your minds are already in sync. For centuries, we've used phrases like birds of a feather flock together to describe this magnetic pull. But what if it's more than just a saying? What if the silent electrical symphony inside our skulls could actually predict who we will call a friend? Welcome to GI Fun Facts Online. Today, we're diving into the cutting-edge science that shows how your brainwaves might just hold the key to your future friendships. This isn't just about shared hobbies. It's about a deep, pre-existing similarity in how our brains process the world. The journey begins with a concept called neural homophily. The idea of homophily itself isn't new. It's the long-observed principle that people tend to hang out with others who are similar to them in age, background, or interests. But in 2018, a team of researchers led by social psychologist Dr. Carolyn Parkinson took this a giant step further. They wanted to know if friends, beyond all those surface-level similarities, actually shared a fundamental similarity in their moment-to-moment thought processes. To find out, they designed a brilliant experiment. First, they meticulously mapped the entire social network of 279 graduate students, figuring out who was friends with whom. Then, they took a smaller group of 42 of these students and had them lie inside an fMRI scanner while watching a series of diverse video clips. These weren't boring videos. They were designed to get a reaction. There was a debate on the risks of college football, a comedy sketch with Liam Neeson, and even footage from a gay Jewish wedding. The fMRI machine doesn't measure brainwaves directly, but it tracks brain activity by detecting changes in blood flow. When a brain area is active, it needs more oxygenated blood. The fMRI picks up on this signal. By tracking these signals across 80 different brain regions for each student, the researchers created a dynamic map of each person's brain activity. The final step was to compare these maps. They looked at every possible pair of students, and the results were stunning. Friends exhibited the most similar neural activity patterns. This wasn't a small effect. The similarity was so strong that it could predict the social distance between two people. The neural responses of friends were more similar than friends of friends, who in turn were more similar than people 3 degrees removed in the social network. In fact, for every 1 unit increase in neural similarity between two people, the odds of them being friends shot up by 47%. And this held true even after the researchers controlled for things like age, gender, and nationality. The similarity was most pronounced in brain regions involved in attention, high-level reasoning, and motivation, like the nucleus accumbens, which is central to our brain's reward system. This suggests that friends don't just think alike, they feel alike. They find the same things engaging, rewarding, or boring on a fundamental neural level. This landmark study opened a fascinating new chapter, but it also raised a classic chicken and egg question. Do we naturally gravitate towards people whose brains are already wired like ours? Or do our brains become more similar because we spend time with our friends? The initial study couldn't answer this, but more recent longitudinal research has. It turns out it's both. We are indeed drawn to people who are already neurally similar to us. That initial click might be our brain recognizing a kindred spirit, someone who processes the world through a similar lens, making interaction feel effortless. But the story doesn't end there. As we spend time together, sharing experiences and creating memories, our brains physically mold into greater alignment. We adopt our friends' perspectives and emotional responses, and this convergence shows up in our neural patterns, so we start similar, and friendship makes us even more so. But while fMRI studies show this deep-seated similarity, another stream of research has uncovered something equally fascinating: the real-time, interactive coupling of brainwaves between people. This is called inter-brain synchrony, or brain-to-brain coupling. To study this, researchers use a method called hyperscanning, where they record the brain activity of two or more people at the exact same time, usually with an EEG, which measures electrical brainwaves directly. And this is where the story gets a surprising twist. In 2024, a study from Waseda University in Japan had pairs of strangers and pairs of acquaintances perform a cooperative task together. Conventional wisdom would predict that the acquainted pairs, the friends, would show greater brain-to-brain alignment. But the researchers found the exact opposite. The pairs of strangers exhibited significantly more robust brain synchrony. Why would strangers' brains sync up more intensely than friends' brains? The researchers believe it comes down to cognitive effort and prediction. When you interact with a friend, their behavior is familiar. You have a mental model of how they'll act, so your brain doesn't have to work as hard. But a stranger is a mystery. To successfully cooperate with them, your brain has to go into overdrive, paying closer attention to their cues and constantly updating its predictions about their behavior. This heightened state of mutual prediction drives the two brains into a tighter state of synchrony. This doesn't mean friends' brains don't synchronize, they absolutely do, but the context is critical. The fMRI studies on neural similarity often involve passive viewing, measuring a baseline state. The EEG studies on interbrain synchrony measure an active, dynamic process during interaction. While strangers might sync up more during a demanding, goal-oriented task, friends often show stronger synchrony in more natural, emotionally resonant situations, like free conversation or simply making eye contact. So it's not a contradiction. Strangers may need to brute force their way to synchrony through intense cognitive effort, while for friends, synchrony emerges more naturally from a foundation of shared understanding and emotion. So what's the machinery behind all this? Several key brain networks are involved. The temporal-parietal junction, or TPJ, is critical for theory of mind, our ability to understand what others are thinking. When brains sync up, this area is often a hub of activity. The prefrontal cortex, our brain's CEO, helps orchestrate joint action, and our reward systems light up when we click with someone, making the connection feel good and encouraging us to pursue it. This neural dance is also communicated through different rhythms or brainwaves. The theta band seems to be important for the high-effort synchrony between strangers. The alpha band is linked to attention and is enhanced by things like eye contact. And all of this is influenced by our body's chemistry and behavior. The hormone oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, acts as a catalyst, priming our brains to sync up more readily. And simple acts, like unconsciously nodding along as a friend speaks or making direct eye contact, are powerful drivers of neural alignment. They create a feedback loop. Synchronized behavior promotes synchronized brains, which in turn makes the interaction feel more rewarding. This research is far from just a scientific curiosity. It has profound real-world implications. In the business world, team chemistry is no longer a vague concept. It's measurable interbrain synchrony. Teams with higher brain-to-brain alignment solve problems faster and report higher levels of trust. Leaders can foster this by creating shared goals and encouraging face-to-face interaction. This science also offers a new frontier in mental health. Loneliness is a public health crisis, and this research gives us a new way to understand it. Chronically lonely individuals may have an altered neural map of their social world. Interventions designed to promote synchrony could help rewire these social circuits. It could also lead to more targeted therapies for conditions like autism spectrum disorder or social anxiety, by understanding and training different patterns of interbrain synchrony. The therapeutic bond between a therapist and client is also likely underpinned by this neural alignment, and studying it could make therapy more effective. Of course, the ability to predict social connection with a brain scan raises ethical questions about neurodiscrimination that we must address as the technology develops. But the journey into the social brain is fundamentally changing our understanding of ourselves. The old saying that friends are on the same wavelength has been transformed from a metaphor into a scientifically observable fact. Our brains are profoundly social organs, constantly seeking out and shaping themselves through connection. The research on neural homophily shows that the seeds of our friendships may be sown in a pre-existing similarity in how our brains see the world. We are drawn to those whose neural symphony already resonates with our own. At the same time, the research on interbrain synchrony reveals that connection is an active, dynamic dance. Through shared goals, empathy, and simple eye contact, our brainwaves can actively couple with another's, building connection moment by moment. This science is unlocking the secrets of what makes teams work, what makes leaders inspiring, and what makes human connection so vital to our health. As we continue to decode the intricate neural choreography of our social lives, we are reminded of a fundamental truth. We are not isolated minds. Our brains are built to connect. The friendships we forge are a process of weaving our neural tapestries together, creating a shared reality that is richer and more profoundly human than anything we could experience alone.